So I'm going to address a question that came in about finding a market profile indicator that works with BloodHound. So, kind of as a general rule, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of indicators out there for an IndiTrader, and so nobody knows all the indicators available out there, and our goal is, we'd love to have every indicator compatible with BloodHound. So we try our best to work with other third-party companies that make indicators to help make their indicator compatible with BloodHound if it's not already. While I do have some exposure to the various indicators out there, we definitely don't know all the indicators out there, and we're not sure which third-party indicators are compatible, which aren't, because they all require a license, right? Everybody's selling their stuff, so so that prevents us from being able to test third-party indicators with BloodHound. But we do know, I do know if some indicators are compatible. It could be indicators coming from our partners, because I'll have licensed their stuff, and also just from working with you guys, our customers. We'll have I'll get information on third-party indicators from you guys, and our other customers, whether something's compatible or not. So sometimes we'll know of indicators and sometimes we won't. I guess that's kind of the point I'm trying to get to. So let me kind of show you something on our site, the one place that you can go to. And let's see, all right, let's get rid of last week's videos, and okay, so let's go to our home page here. All right. Yeah, so this page isn't readily publicized. It's kind of tucked away. But if you go to Learn BloodHound and you bring up the documentation page, so on this menu here, if we scroll down at the bottom, there's third-party indicators, right? So there's third-party indicators that don't play well. It's kind of our cute way of saying, they don't work with BloodHound, or there's some other little thing that's preventing them from working with BloodHound. And then there's some indicators that do work with BloodHound. So we have a list of both. So as known indicators come in, I try and keep this list updated, from time to time. So here's the list of indicators that essentially have some kind of an issue and don't work with BloodHound. So like for example, a classic example is the APA zones. It draws rectangles on the chart and it doesn't plot lines. So therefore, BloodHound can't interact with the triangles or drawing tools. So that's kind of one example of the reason why APA zones doesn't work with BloodHound. So, so there's that resource, right? So back on the documentation page, just scroll down to the bottom here, just above the Raven. So, right, so there's that resource, and then I'm going to switch over to another VMware here and answer the question about the market profile. So I've got two charts up here. So we were working with trade order flow. So tradeorderflow.com, I believe it is, and so I was working with them a while back, and so luckily I do have their indicators licensed on this VMware here, And so there are, Maria over at Trade Overflow does have I believe it's, yeah, an older set of indicators that I know work with BloodHound. I'm not sure if her newer set, I do remember that she was updating her indicators, and I do remember that I think her newer indicators weren't compatible with BloodHound. I don't remember the exact details, but I do know that her older set of indicators were working. And in fact, you can actually see on the chart here this market profile indicator that I have on here. Let's see, it's her VWAP market profile 2.5.5. Right, so I think she's been using that one for a long time, and she had somebody kind of revamp it a little bit, kind of give it a cleaner look, but unfortunately the newer one had some issues with BloodHound. So that one does work, and let me pull up BloodHound here. So we got BloodHound open, and all I did was I just created one simple crossover solver here just to kind of demonstrate one of the things here. So alright, so we can see, so this is the trade order flows indicator in here. And let me open up the indicator list. So there's the indicator, and yeah, so here's something that's kind of interesting. You know, when it comes to programming, you can do all kinds of weird little stuff with indicators in the way that you can change their name and stuff. So you can see here the name down here says copyright, 2011 to 2015, but in the indicator list it comes up with a different name. And this is something, this is all the weird stuff that programmers can do with their indicators inside of NinjaTrader. And so let's see, I'm trying to scroll down here. Here we go. So see the LT, these LT underscore, this is that indicator on here. So actually I think it is this one. Yeah, so this LT VWAP market profile is the indicator, and when you add it to BloodHound, the name gets changed. Right, and so that's something that the indicator is doing. Yeah, it's kind of one thing to be aware of. If you get some kind of custom indicator, a third-party indicator, and you don't see the name inside of BloodHound, it just might be falling under some other kind of naming scheme there, right? So, anyways, okay. So back to this VWAP indicator, we can see that whoever coded this did a pretty good job at exposing a lot of different information about the VWAP and the market profile. So you can see all these, all this stuff. Session open, I guess that's the session open price. The current session low. Well, it's session low. I don't know if it's the current session low. So some kind of an open range, low and high information. I don't know exactly what this stuff is telling me. I'm just assuming, going by the name of the plot. Right, so you got a first value area, and there's a second value area information, which, if I remember correctly, this red line with the dots on it, I think that's the first value area, and the next line down here, the bluish green line, that's the second value area, I believe. And the black line, I think, is the session low. All right, so and these value areas can be defined. You can set the percentage for what those value areas are. Right, so this indicator has a session start time and a session end time. It's got lots of settings. Yeah, here we go. So first value area size in percentage, so you can define your own percentage of what the first value area and the second value area represent. Right, so I think the dotted red line is the first value area, and it's set to 68% of that value area. And then there's yesterday's value area, stuff like that. So I haven't tested all of these plots, but since they're all plots, I'm going to assume that they're all working correctly. So when I was working with trade order flow, we only worked with the first and the second value area plots, and also let's see, yeah, also I think we used the session low and the session high to do some stuff. Yeah, so right now, you know, what you're seeing on the chart is the point of control, the POC, and you can see, so the POC is the dotted turquoise. You can see whenever price crosses it, we're getting a crossover signal there. Let's see, so let me move this over. So in BloodHound, the way I have this, I have a crossover solver, and so I'm just looking for price to cross, you know, the market profile indicator, and in this case it's crossing the point of control. Let's see, so I could do some, let's see, so let's generate a long signal. If we cross the value area high, and a short signal if price crosses the value area low. And right, so there you go. So you can see when price crosses the value area low, which is the red line, right? We're getting short signals whenever price crosses it. So, you know, since these are plot lines, that really helps make the indicator compatible with BloodHound. So that's kind of what NinjaTrader originally designed, you know, was when one indicator is going to communicate with an indicator, you know, it's best to do it through a plot. So let's see if there's any, yeah, here we go. So now we have over here, we got price crossing above the value area, the first value area high line, which is the blue dotted line there. One thing to note is while this works great historically, going forward on live data, one thing I did discover is that BloodHound had to be run with calculated on bar close set to false. So I actually kind of rushed and just threw this together real quick, but BloodHound needs to be set with calculated on bar close set to false, because market profile indicators, I'm going to kind of stick my neck out and say that they all need to run with calculated on bar close false, because they all need access to live incoming tick by tick data, and so this calculated on bar close has to be set to false in order for the indicator to access live tick by tick data there. So let's see, yeah, even though, so I've got, right, the VWAP indicator on the chart, and even though it does have calculate on bar close set to true, it's actually not really calculating with the setting set to true. Somehow internally they are calculating it set to false. So, but anyways, that, you know, some technical stuff. So really all you need to know is that probably if you are using BloodHound with some kind of a market profile indicator, and you're getting, you know, and you're getting okay results, you know, correct results on historical data, but when you run it forward on live data, things get kind of weird and your signals get messed up, stuff like that, it's going to be due to needing calculate on bar close set to false for BloodHound, right? So when BloodHound is running with calculate on bar, when BloodHound is running with COBC set to false, then that allows the market profile indicator to run with that setting set to false as well. So let's see, yeah, so I'll just like that. There's another indicator here from trade order flow, and let's see, this indicator has generates delta information. So if you're looking for delta, cumulative delta ratio information, I know this indicator also works, but also at the same time I'll say that if you're looking for delta information, I know that the GOM CD indicator, the base, at least the base GOM CD indicator, do work with BloodHound. The last I tested them, which was a couple years ago. I don't know if if the GOM CD has been updated since then, but the last I tested the GOM stuff, it was working fine with BloodHound. And the GOM CD indicators, and let me type that in here. So I'll just type that in the chat box. So if you do a Google search for that, it'll probably bring you to the Big Mike's forum, or who knows, maybe you'll find it on NinjaTrader's forum as well now. So, and the GOM CD will also generate delta information as well. But what I did is I set up a solver to detect when the delta value, so you can see the row that says delta. So whenever that delta is greater than 500 or less than negative 500, it's going to generate an output there. And let me open up BloodHound. And right, so I'm just using a threshold solver, and so my thresholds are 500 and negative 500, just to generate a long or short output whenever the delta is exceeds 500 or it exceeds negative 500. And let me open up the indicator. So right, this is the trade order flow div delta indicator. And once again, this is one of those LT listed indicators down here. So there we go. Yeah, so it's the LT div delta on the list, but as soon as you add it, the name gets changed, just like the other indicator. So, and I'm just accessing the delta information here. So you can also access the cumulative delta if you want. See if the cumulative delta is above or below a certain value that you might be looking for. So see, there's a reversed delta information. I don't know what a reversed delta is, so just as kind of a disclaimer, there's only so much help we can give with a third-party indicators stuff, because these aren't our indicators, so none of us know how these indicators work, what settings to use. All I know is that all I can really do is test the indicator, make sure it works, and it's always the author of the indicator that gives me the settings, and shows me how to use it real quick. But I really have no idea what what settings should be turned on or off or anything. That's information that you would have to get from trade order flow, right? So trade order flow would have to teach you, how to use this indicator, what settings you might want, what you might not want, and they would have to tell you, what information is inside of all this stuff. Once again, I have, no idea what information this ask plot is giving you. Is it the value? Is it the price at the current ask? Or is it the volume at the current ask? I have no idea. It's not my indicator. So detailed information like that you'd have to ask the owner or the creator of the indicator to kind of figure out what is in this ask information here. But anyways, I just wanted to show you that those two indicators do work with BloodHound. So alright, yeah, so I'm getting some questions on where are these indicators. So hopefully you guys had figured out by now that these are third-party indicators for sale. So these are not free. I don't know of any market profile indicator for free. But these are from trade order flow. So let's see if I can find their website. And Yahoo. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think it's this one here. Yep, okay, this is it. This is the site. So there you go. So it's tradeorderflow.com. So I'm not saying that this is the only one that works with BloodHound. This is just one that I do know that works. So there very well could be other market profile indicators that work with BloodHound. This is just the one that I know. So and I'll put that link in the chat box there. Yeah, so RJ is asking, so if an indicator plots a line, BloodHound can use that. I'd say 99% of the time that is correct. Yes, that is correct. If your indicator, if your third-party indicator, kind of custom indicator, is giving a plot, so let me open this back up. Yeah, so we see all these are plots. Yeah, I'd say 99% of the time, if you see that as a plot, BloodHound can read it. But there are cases where programmers can list a plot, but yet there's no information in that plot. There's really nothing in it. When it comes to coding, indicator developers can do all kinds of weird stuff. So there could be cases where there are plots, but for some reason there's just nothing in that plot. So therefore, if there is no data in that plot, then obviously BloodHound has nothing to work with. So that is a possibility. Or the indicator just could be coded incorrectly. Where the programmer meant this plot to provide information, but when the indicator is running inside of another indicator, things get kind of messed up with that plot data. So it's always possible. So when it comes to kind of an open development platform like NinjaTrader, NinjaTrader is, the best thing that we love about NinjaTrader is that it runs on C#.net, which makes it, an open kind of development platform. And that's great because you can do all kinds of cool stuff. That's why BloodHound exists on NinjaTrader, because you can code anything you want in C# for NinjaTrader. But at the same time, developers can do all kinds of weird stuff, non-standard stuff, which that's kind of the downside of it. So So sometimes there could be some indicators where plots just aren't functioning properly because of the way the indicator was coded. So, sometimes when you're working with third-party indicators, you just have to do lots of different types of testing and stuff to try and figure out if an indicator is working correctly or not. So I've done some previous workshop topics kind of talking about this, how you can test an indicator and so forth. So if you got any questions about testing a third-party indicator, we can kind of point you to some videos and stuff. Let's see. I'm going to put this back on the point of control. And all right. Let's see. Next one. So Sif was asking, are they available on Big Mic? So Sif, I think I addressed that. And no, they're not. So Jared had a question about using the Ichimoko cloud indicator. So let me get that on here. So Jared, Jared wanted to know, wanted to be able to know when price is above or below the Ichimoko cloud. And I do have an Ichimoko indicator, which, again, this came from either Ninja or Big Mike. If I remember that, I think there's a couple of Ichimoko indicators out there, and one of them wasn't too good, from what I kind of remember. I think it was lacking some plot, some Ichimoko lines, or something like that, or and it might have had some issues with BloodHound. I think mostly it was just missing some plot. It was just missing some plots, I think. So, all right, let's see. So the Ichimoko line. Let's see that Jared is using. I'm just reading his question here. All right, so Senkou span. So we have a Senkou span A and B. Well, let's see. All right, that's black. I guess I need to change it to white. And I'll change this to a lighter gray. Let's make those a little darker. Yeah, this color scheme is definitely made for a white chart. Okay, I guess I can't change it. So I can see. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I can see that between the white and the gray line. So this is our Senkou lines. It's shaded in, so it's shaded in blue and shaded in red. It's not coming out very well, but so the question is, we want to know, if price is greater than the cloud. So let's see. So that's the upper cloud line, and that is the bottom of the cloud line. And let's see. Yeah, so we can see price is above the cloud there, and here we can see price is below the cloud. Right, so right there, that is the cloud, those white and gray lines. Oops. So, so I'll start off using BloodHound with this first question here. So this is going to take a combination of solvers here, because we need to compare price to two different plot lines, right? So we got one plot line, because there's one Senkou plot line, there's A, and then there's B, Senkou plot line. So we're comparing price to two different plot lines to see if price is completely above the cloud or completely below the cloud. So it's going to require two comparison solvers to do that. Alright, so let's get BloodHound open here. Actually, first. Alright, got BloodHound open, so let me put today's data in there. Yeah, hey, happy Friday the 13th, huh? So far, so good. Let's knock on wood here. Alright. Let's see. Alright. So we're just going to test, work with the cloud, as it's called. So I'm going to grab a comparison solver, and I'll give this a name here. Alright, so we're going to check to see if price is above or below the Senkou. Well, yeah, Senkou A. So I'm going to set indicator A to price, and then indicator B down here is going to be our Senkou plot. All right, let's find. There's the Ichimoko, and there we go. So let's select the Senkou span A first. And let's see, let's check our chart. There we go. All right. So the Senkou A is the white plot here. Right here. I'm going to make these a little more distinct. There. All right. So the Senkou B, or Senkou span B, is the dashed line now. Now we can tell the difference. So we can see here whenever the closing price is crossing the white line, right? If price is below, we're getting a short output. If price is above, we're getting a long output there. So now we just need to do the same thing for the Senkou B plot line, which is right our dashed gray line there. All right. So I've got one solver built. So I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to go back to the solver tab. I can just grab this solver that I've already built, made a copy of it, like so. There's my copy. And I'm going to change the name and also change the plot. So now we want to look at the Senkou span B plot. So there we go. Change the plot. All right, I got a new solver built, and so now I need to put that solver on the board. So let's go to existing nodes, and there's my price above or below Senkou B comparison solver. Let's put that on there, and let's take a look at it. So so whenever price is below the Senkou B, we're getting a short output, and whenever price is above it, we're getting a long output. And we can see here on a couple of bars, price, let's see, right there, we can see price actually equals that plot line exactly. So there's no output because price is neither above or below. Price actually equals that plot line exactly, so there's no output there. We got a couple of bars like that. All right, so the next step is we need to make sure that price is above or below both of these lines, right? Both of the Senkou lines at the same time, right? So right now we got solvers that'll tell us whether it's above or below each individual line, but we want to make sure it's above or below both lines at the same time. So we need to use an AND node to do that. And as soon as we connect that AND node up, there we go. So we can see price is inside the cloud and there's no output. And then the closing price is below the cloud. And so we got a short output. And then once again, price is inside the cloud, at least the closing price. So right, we're not looking at the whole bar. We're just looking at the closing price being above or below the cloud. And so down here, the closing price is above the cloud, and we're getting a long output. So that's how you do that. Can BloodHound get signals from the WoodiesCCI, the Turbo line? Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. So let's put the Turbo or the WoodiesCCI on here. Let's see. I'm going to minimize the Ichimoko plot. There we go. So, okay, so there's the WoodiesCCI, and we're interested in the turbo plot. All right, so it's the orange line. Let's make this real thick here. Okay, so there we go. There's so the thick orange line is the turbo line, and we'll just do a quick example on this. So let's make a new logic template. How about if I just do a simple crossover? Alright, I'm going to name my solver first. Okay, so I'm looking for the turbo to cross over the 0 line. So I'm going to put the WoodiesCCI up in indicator A. Alright, and okay, there's our turbo plot right there. And to cross the 0 line, I'm going to set indicator B to a fixed value. And right, so 0, so it goes to 0. And so there we go. We can see whenever the thick orange line crosses the 0 line there. Let's see. Let me. Make that line a little lighter, and yeah, so hopefully you guys can see my cursor's on the 0 line there, so it's got the dots right there. So we can see that the turbo line, which is the dark orange line, right, it's crossing that 0 line a whole bunch of times, and we're getting an output there. All right, Don, there you go. Hope that takes care of your question. You know, we could also do something else, like I could use a threshold solver. And to see if the turbo is, you know, above or below 100 and negative 100. So let's set our indicator here for the threshold solver. Set it to the Woody. There we go, WoodiesCCI. Once again, we'll select that turbo line. And so I want to see if it's above 100. Right, so I'm going to set my long output to greater than 100. That's when I want a long output. And let's see, yeah, there we go. So right here, you see that this line here where my cursor is at, that's the 100 line there. And whenever that turbo line goes above it, we're getting a long output. It's above 100. And then we'll check to see whenever the turbo goes below negative 100. And so I'm going to set my short output down here to less than 100. And there we go. We can see the turbo went below negative 100 right there. And back here. Alright, so there's a couple of examples for Don. Alright, so Louis, I really can't address your question, without more detailed information. But so Louis is asking, so when Louis' system gets a buy or sell signal, but he wants to wait X number of ticks as a confirmation in the direction of the signal for that signal to be valid. So essentially, Louis is getting some signals from BloodHound, kind of a pre-setup, and then the final confirmation to that trade signal is price moving certain number of ticks. So what BloodHound needs is, let's see, I've got a bunch of signals here, so let me see if I can come up with an example. Yeah, let's try this. All right. So let's say, for example, right, we get a buy signal here, and so I've got my arrow on the closing price, and you want to wait until price moves up, let's say 10 cents on oil here. Let's say 10 cents as a confirmation. Right, so price needs to cross this line up here, which is 10 cents up. So what BloodHound needs to know is BloodHound needs something to BloodHound needs an indicator to either tell you, this price up above here, where this line, or BloodHound needs something that identifies the closing price, of this bar, basically your starting point. So as price keeps moving, BloodHound needs something, needs an indicator, essentially, to keep telling it what the closing price of this bar was, and then BloodHound can make a measurement, essentially from the plot line. So if we had an indicator that was plotting the closing price of this bar, such as like what this arrow is doing, then we could use a comparison solver, right? So let's see, we've got going back to the Ichimoko, right? We've got comparison solvers here, and with a comparison solver, we can use the large and small amount to make some kind of a measurement. We can see if price has moved, for example, I could say 10 ticks from some kind of an indicator value, right? So the comparison solver can make this measurement, but BloodHound, BloodHound can check to see if the closing price, or the price of something, of your bar, is 10 ticks, above or below some kind of an indicator plot. So that's kind of the missing piece there, Louis, is we need an indicator that's going to hold on to the price, the price of the bar here where your signal fires off. So and so as price moves up, well, in this case, I guess price didn't move up, but essentially as as each bar keeps printing, BloodHound needs a indicator plot that references the closing price of this bar where your trade signal occurred. So that's the missing piece. And then you could just simply set up a comparison solver like this and see if the closing price is above or below some indicator plot by 10 ticks. So yeah, it's kind of, I think, as best as I can answer that question without without more detail. All right, let's delete my lines. Let's see. Louis is asking, could it be a 2 MA of the closing price? Well, let's see, but so Louis, doesn't the 2 well, actually, so Louis, let me ask you, how many does the next bar have to move a certain number of ticks, or can it be X number of bars after? So let me find a better example here. Yeah, maybe this is a better example. Okay, so we get a buy signal here, and right, so I'll just mark, right, so right there's the closing price. So does price have to move X number of ticks on the next bar, or or can price take up to 2 or 3 or 4 bars? How soon does price have to move up for that confirmation really is the key. So if so I guess I can answer the question if price has to move up 2 ticks on the next bar, then if we know that, so if you're only allowing 1 bar to go by as your confirmation, then you could do that. But if the number of bars that goes by is unknown, then BloodHound would require an indicator to kind of hold on to the price of the bar that triggered the signal. But if it's if you only allow 1 bar to go by, as you're if you're only allowing 1 bar to go by and price has to move up 2 ticks, then we could do that. But if you're allowing more than 1 bar to go by, then you would need some kind of an indicator that holds on to the price, holds on to the price of the bar where you get your your buy signal there. So to do something like that, let's see. Yeah. All right, let's kind of make something up here. All right, so I'm just going to take this WoodiesCCI Turbo, crossover as kind of like my signal here. So that'll be my signal that I'll use, and then we'll check for a 2-tick confirmation on the next bar. Yeah. So I'm going to grab a comparison solver. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to set indicator A to the closing price and set indicator B to price as well. Yeah, so I'm going to set the look back for B. I'm going to set that to 2. So what I'm doing here is, so indicator A, right, that's the closing price, and the look back period is 1. So I'll put a dot here. So indicator A is the closing price with a look back of 1. So that's going to be the current bar right there. Indicator B is set, it's looking at the closing price with a look back of 2. So that's looking back 1 bar back. So it's looking at that closing price right there. So what we're doing is we're saying, is this closing price above or below the previous closing price? And let's see. And all right, so let's see. Louis said 2 ticks. So I'll set these to 2 ticks. There we go. Now this solver, all it's doing is it's just looking to see, hey, did the next bar move 2 ticks above or below the previous bar, right? So we can see here the closing prices are the same, right? So there's no output, but here we can see price did actually move up 2 ticks, moved up 2 ticks from the previous bar. And once again, all these bars in here, so we can see the closing price is only 1 tick away from the closing price of the previous bar, right? Same here. So there's no output. So the closing price is only 1 tick from that previous bar, so there's no output. But then finally here we can see this closing price is 2 ticks below the previous bar, and same here, 2 ticks below the previous bar. But in here we can see that the closing prices are the same, so there's no output on this bar, right? Price is only moving a tick or 2. I mean 1 tick or no ticks, 1 tick or 0, not a tick or 2, but 1 tick or 0. And so we can see there's no output because the closing prices are not 2 ticks or more. So, right, so this solver is looking for a 2-tick move, at least a 2-tick move, from one closing price to the next closing price. And so, I'm assuming, Louis, that you're just looking at the closing price. We could also set this up to see if let's see, let me find an example here. Yeah. I'll just draw another. We could check to see if, we could compare the closing price of 1 bar to the high price of the next bar. You could do something like that if that's a part of your rules as well, right? You can compare it to the high price of the bar or the low of the bar. Let me find some other examples here. And yeah, here we go. So we could compare the closing price of the previous bar and compare it to the high of the next bar, like that. Or if this bar had a wick, we could compare it to the low. Yeah, here we go. we could compare the closing price of the previous bar to the low of the next bar. So you can change these closing prices if that's not what you're using. You could use the high or the low, but I'll just leave this at the closing price for this example. So the next step would be, so I've got the trade signals here, right? Trade signals here, and we're going to use an AND node. Put the trade signals in there, and so actually, let me find my example again. There we go. All right, so so we got the trade trigger on this bar, and then we're going to see if price moves up 2 ticks or not. And so the signal's actually gonna, so in this example, right, the signal's actually going to fire off on this bar, hoping that price moves up 2 ticks at least. So what we have to do is find a way to take this signal, and we have to shift it forward onto the next bar where the confirmation actually takes place. So I'm going to use a look back node. So you see how the look back node now moved the signals forward 1 bar. Alright, so originally the signals are on these 2 bars, and then with the look back it shifted forward onto the next bar where we're waiting for the confirmation, right? So we're waiting for the confirmation on the next bar forward. So I'm going to connect that to the AND node, and then take our confirmation solver and connect that in, and there we go. And so we do actually have a signal here because price did move, price moved at least 2 ticks or more. So that's how you do that. So at least that's how you do that if you're waiting for price to move 2 ticks on the next bar. So let's see. All right, so Louis just wants to wait for price to cross 2 ticks, but he doesn't want to wait until the close. All right, so so Louis, I take it you must have to do that. So if you want to wait for price to move if you want to get the signal immediately as the bar is building or as price is moving in real time, you will have to run BloodHound with calculate on bar close set to false. Right? If you're using real tick by tick data, then you do have to set your indicators to this calculate on bar close set to false. All right. So with this set to false, let's see if this is working here. 2-minute bars. Let's see. We don't want 2-minute bars. And gosh, let's see. Oil just doesn't seem to be moving at all today, does it? Let me change my chart to something that's going to move a lot faster here. So I'm going to change it to a 4 range. And, oh, cool. So there we go. Oh shoot, we missed that signal. All right, yeah, maybe price will move up here. All right, so our CCI or the turbo crossed. No, shoot, the turbo didn't cross the zero line, not yet. Shoot. Yeah. Hey, here we go. All right, cool. So if price moves, there you go. There's our signal in real time. Actually, let's see. You know, I'm using oil, so it's not actually triggering on exactly 2 ticks, and that's because oil can be a little funky. Oil doesn't always trade in exact tick increments. You know, oil can trade in tenths of a tick. You know, it's really weird if you look at the ticker tape data coming in for oil. So a suggestion here is you might want to put something like 1.9 ticks, you know, just to, you know, just in case you get those oddball price, you know, ticks coming in, where it could be like 2.01 ticks, you know, of a price coming in here. So do something like that. Yeah, so there you go. That did work out there. Can BloodHound use volume and price so that when volume increases over the previous volume bar and price closes above the previous high, it will enter a trade? Yes, you bet. Robert, let's build that real quick. Okay, so there's volume on the chart now. Let's get this open. All right, so let's see. Let's come up with some kind of name here. So we got volume and price increase. Okay. So what are we actually doing here? So let's kind of break this down to see what we're actually doing. Yeah. So let's just say that this is the current bar, and so we're going to be looking to see if if volume increases right on the next bar. So we'll step forward to the next bar, and there we can see, right? So volume's increasing on the current bar, or another way of saying it is that the current. So now the new current bar. So the current bar's volume is greater than the previous volume. So what we're doing is we're doing a comparison. We're comparing the volume of the current bar with the volume of the previous bar, or 1 bar back. So to do a comparison, we're going to use a comparison solver here. And we could put the volume in here, or also we have a shortcut to the volume right there. If you notice, when you use this volume, there's no displacement feature here, right? So for indicator B, we will have to use a displacement of 1. So using a displacement is a way that you can access the data from previous bars back. So we can set this to volume, and right, so indicator A can be set to volume, and that's always going to be the volume on the current bar, right? So as each bar goes by, right, that's going to be volume on the current bar. But indicator B, that's going to be our volume. That's going to be our volume on the previous bar here. So we need to use a displacement of 1, and then we're going to set the indicator to the volume indicator. Just like that, right? Oh, no, not the VMA, sorry. There we go, the volume. Set that to the volume. Alright, so now we've got access to the volume, and we're using a displacement of 1. So that's a way, so the displacement is a way of looking back at previous bars. So we can already see on the chart here, whenever volume is increasing, we can see we're getting a long output here, right? We're getting the green long output, and whenever volume decreases, we're getting a short output whenever volume steps down and decreases. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like we got a couple of bars here. 2 bars in a row where volume decreased right there. And so we got 2 short outputs. Okay, so that's one requirement. Alright, so we got volume is increasing or decreasing. And see the next component to Robert's question. Let's see, we need price needs to close above the previous high. Okay, yeah. And maybe I should put this on volume bars instead of range bars, so that way we get some more randomness of the wicks and the closing price. So let's just throw this on a 1-minute chart. Alright, just looking for some good examples here. Yeah, here we go. So here's the high, and the closing price did close above the high there. And of course, here's an example of a failure of that. So price closed below that. Even though volume increased, so we're just looking at, right, we're still looking at the volume increasing or decreasing. And so I'm just finding some examples on the chart of price, the closing price of the current bar being above the previous bar's high. So there's a couple examples. So there's a successful condition, and this one is a failure here. There, so that's a oh. All right, so let's get back to BloodHound, and we'll take a look at that. So once again, we're comparing price of one bar to price of a previous bar. So we're going to grab a comparison solver. And we're going to set both indicator A and indicator B to the price. All right, so A is going to be the closing price. It's going to be the closing price of the current bar. Right, and that dot is awful big. Let's see, let me there we go. So A is the closing price of the current bar. So with a look back of 1, that's going to be the current bar where the red arrow is. And B is going to be the previous bar. So B is going to be the high of the previous bar. So I'm going to set the price type long because we're trying to generate a long signal here, right? So when the current bar closes above the previous bar's high, right, we want a long signal. We want a buy signal. So I'm going to set the long to high, and I'll set the short to low, like that. I guess I'm just kind of guessing there, Robert. I don't really know. You didn't explain what the requirements are for a short trade setup. So I don't know if this really needs to be the low or not. I'm just kind of guessing. Usually if you have the long set to high, then usually your short is set to low, you know, the way most people's rules are. So just kind of following the typical convention. But you know, but this may not need to be set to low in your case, Robert. It all depends on, you know, how a short trade setup, how you define a short trade setup, I should say. But this will work for that, for the long signal as you described it. And all right, so then the next step, we need to set our look back to 2, so that way we're looking at the previous bar's price. All right, so look back at 2 is looking at the previous bar's price. And so if we look at these, right, we can see we're getting long outputs whenever the closing price is above the previous bar's high, or if the closing price, let me grab another pointer. So if the closing price is below the previous bar's low, we'll also get a short signal. Yeah. Closing price, previous bar's low. Right, there we go. Closing price of the bar below the previous bar's low. Right. So let's get back to our spot here. There we go. So now, if I take an AND node, so both of these conditions need to be true at the same time, at least the way Robert explained it to me. So there we go. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't read the second part that Robert wrote in here. So there's a more detailed condition to the volume. So volume has to increase by 50%. 50%. So yeah, all right. So let's modify this solver here. All right. So this is the solver looking at volume, and BloodHound doesn't have a percentage measurement unit, but it can do certain type of percentage measurements by using the ATR. So the ATR can be kind of tricked into calculating, or the ATR can be kind of tricked into getting percentage kind of movements here. So all right, so I'm going to set the small amount and large amount to ATRs. And so to trick the ATR into kind of acting like a percentage, we have to set the period to 1. All right, so we're setting the period to 1. And so a 1 ATR is basically a full, is the full average true range. All right, it's one average true range. So, so for example, let's look at this. All right, so we're looking at just the current volume bar, right, which is 267. So an ATR of with a one period ATR of that volume is going to equal the volume of that one bar. All right, so the average true range of a one period volume bar, so for this bar it's going to be 267, right? So we're not using the ATR to actually average the volume out. We're just using the ATR as a way to kind of get a percentage value. So with the ATR set up, so a 1 ATR of this volume bar is going to be 267. Now the ATR of this previous bar, this one bar back, so this volume bar is 510. So a one period ATR of a 510 volume bar is 510. So what we can do is, instead of using 1, we can put in here 0.5 for 50%. Right, so that's half of an ATR. So half of an ATR is going to be 50%. Right, so I'll put 0.5 in there, and so that's how we can get kind of a 50% ATR. And let's see. Well, I thought that was going to work for volume, but let's see. It does not seem to be working for volume. I guess the ATR is not calculating volume as I thought it would. Well, let me think. Let me see if there's some other way to tackle this. Maybe Ninja's rate of change indicator can do this. Let me add this to the chart. Alright, so we'll find that volume indicator. Alright, so I'm going to feed the volume into the rate of change, and let's see, I think I just want to, let's see, a rate of change of one period. I'm not sure if that's right, if it might be a one period or a two period. And let's set this up so we can see the color. That's a little too dark. Yeah, so one period's not right. Let's set it to a two period. Oh, oops, actually, sorry, I was looking at the wrong indicator. Let me set it back to 1. And so I'm just having to do some math in my head here. So this is almost a 50% increase. Actually, no, that would be a 100% increase. Yeah, so let's just say 150 to almost 300 on the volume. That's actually almost a 100% increase. So, and yeah, the rate of change gave us 97, so I guess 97%. So we want a 50% increase. Let's see, so this volume bar is at 253. The next volume bar is at 285. So 253 to 285. Rate of change is saying 12, so I'd say 12%. Yeah, that's about a 12%. You know, without breaking out the calculator. You know, from say 250 to 285, yeah, that's about 12%. All right, yeah. So I think a rate of change set to 1 will tell us the percent change. Yeah. Okay, I think that is working. So there we go. That rate of change indicator comes in handy from time to time. All right, so I'm really going to change this solver a lot now. So let's see. Actually, we don't need this solver at all. Yeah, I'm just going to throw it off to the side because we're not going to use that. So since we're using the rate of change, so the rate of change is actually calculating our percent. It's calculating our percent change. So instead of rate of change, we're using a period of 1. We've taken the rate of change and we've kind of turned it into a percentage of change. You know, from one indicator value to the next. So let's just kind of double check here. Oh yeah. So here was a pretty easy example to figure out here. So this volume bar is, you know, it's just rounded up to 150, and the next volume bar, you know, is almost at 300, right? So that's a 100% increase, and our rate of change is up here at 97%, you know, which looks correct. So because it's not 300, it's 294. So that's almost 100% increase, but rate of change is telling us, well, it's actually 97% increase. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to see when the rate of change is above or below 50 for 50%. So now we're actually going to use a threshold solver because we want to know if the rate of change is above 50% or below 50%. Alright, so let's grab the rate of change indicator. There we go. Add that in there. And now we need to go find volume. So we're going to take volume, nest it into the rate of change. Right, so that's exactly what I did on the chart. Right, so if you remember on the chart, I took the volume and fed it or nested it into the rate of change indicator. And also I need to take my rate of change indicator and set it to a period of 1, just like I did on the chart. Alright, so there we go. So we've got the rate of change with a period of 1, and we're feeding the volume into the rate of change. Alright, so that's exactly what I did on the chart here. So if I open up the indicator on the chart, so there's our rate of change indicator. Right, I set a period of 1, and the input series I set it to volume. So I did the same thing in BloodHound. So let's see. So we got the volume, rate of change, and we're looking for, you know, let's see, above or, well, I'll just leave, say, 50%. 50% threshold. There. Okay, so now we need to put our 50% in here for the threshold level. So we're looking, essentially, bottom line is we're looking for the rate of change to be above 50. So that means the volume increased more than 50%. So we're looking for it to be above 50. So we're going to get a long signal when the rate of change is greater than 50 or greater than 50%. And I'll just, you know, assume the opposite is true for short signals. So this is just an assumption I'm making because Robert didn't give me details on short signals. So we'll just do that. And we're going to short output. Alright, so now, now we can see whenever volume increases more than 50% of the previous bar. So let me check those two out. Let me scroll over here. So 188 up to 285, so that's a 100 volume difference. So 50% of 188 is, let's just say 90. I'll just round it up to 90. Actually, round it up to 95, right? So if we add 95 to 188, that's roughly our 50% increase. And actually, we can see that the volume increased by almost 100. So that is above 50% increase. Yep. All right. So it looks like that is working. And let's see. So, all right. Let's plug that in there. See what we get. All right. So volume stepping up, and the closing price is stepping up. Yeah. And I wonder if there's any short signals out of this. Well, let's just check the longs here. Yeah, that looks good. So volume definitely did not increase by 50% here between those two bars. Definitely did on that one. Hey, there's a short signal. So price did close below the previous bar's low, and volume really did drop off there. All right, so. All right, well, Robert. So Robert K, I hope that addressed, I think that took care of it for you. So let me just bring this back up. Let's see, let me finish naming this solver. So this solver is looking to see if the close is above or below the previous high or low. Alright, so that solver is doing the price comparison. And then this solver is looking at the volume, calculating the 50% move up or down. So yeah, looks like Robert's happy with that. Great. All right, so Adam is asking, he's trying to use the trade the plan auto fib retracement indicator so that when price hits the 50% retracement, it makes a trade. Yeah. All right. Well, Adam, without much more detailed information, I can show you an example using the crossover solver. So I actually don't have Daniel's commercial indicators on here, so I can't actually use Daniel's indicator, but I can use a similar indicator, right? Let's see, first let me clean up my chart a little bit. So I'm just going to find some kind of indicator that throws out support resistance lines. So doesn't matter if you're looking at a fib line or some other line. A line is a line is a line, as far as software is concerned. So I'm sure that Daniel's indicator plots that 50% retracement line. So you know, which is that 50% retracement. I'm assuming it's just going to be a plot. So I'm going to find, how about the, yeah, let me use the pivots line. Yeah, I'll use the pivots line here, the pivots indicator, sorry. And let's just, I'll use the PP line. So let's see, I'll make that a little thicker. Let me make these others a little thinner. And yeah, we're going to calc from intraday data. All right, let's get the indicator on here. And hopefully I can find a spot where price crosses that the PP line. Hey, there we go. Great. Okay, so we've got a spot here, something to work with. All right, so we'll just pretend that the PP line is your 50% retracement. Let's see, so we got, we'll say price touching or crossing. You know, a support or resistance line. Right, so essentially you're, you know, if you're using fib lines, you're using them as a, you know, a support or resistance as a more generic term. So let's see. The simple thing I can show you here is the crossover. So let's just grab this crossover. Okay. So let's see. This is price to the pivot PP line. Alright, so let's set indicator A to price. So we'll set that to price. And so I'm just going to leave it at the closing price for now. And we'll set indicator B section to the pivot indicator. Let's go find that. And let me set the indicator up the same, so we're calculating from intraday data. And we're just going to, yeah, so we're going to select the PP line. So it's already selected for us. All right. So one thing about the crossover solver is it has this setting here. Crosses occur when equal. So we can set that to true, and so what that would allow is we would actually get a signal when price just touches the 50% line or touches your support resistance line, right? If we set this to true. Now let's see, now since you're using like a fib line, right? If price is yeah, let's just use this. Let's use this as our example here. You know, so price is coming back up to that 50% line, right? Pulling back to that 50%, right? So you probably don't want a long signal. You're going to want a short signal. So with the crossover solver, instead of using crosses in direction, right? So right now we're getting a long output because price crossed above. Right, it crossed long, it crossed above, so we're getting a long output. But instead, since you're using a fib line, usually you're going to want the opposite of this. So instead, we're going to want to use crosses against direction. like so. So now you can see we flipped the crossover signals, right? We reversed them. So now that's a short. So yeah, so you know, if price is moving back to our 50% line, then bingo, you get a short right there. Alright, so Adam, I hope that does it for you. You know, if that doesn't fit your situation, I just need a lot more exacting kind of information from you, more detail about, you know, about what you're trying to do to, you know, find a better fit for you. But I think for the most part, this crossover will accomplish, so this crossover will accomplish kind of the main goal there of, you know, detecting when price touches your 50% line, or you know, price quite often will cross over that 50% by, you know, a little bit. And so this will get you that initial, you know, touch of price getting to that 50% area. All right, well guys, with that, hey, have a great weekend, and see you next time. Bye-bye.